Is someone that you care about a foster or adoptive parent? Well, stick around and I'll go over 8 things you should not say to foster and adoptive parents. Hey friends, I'm Anna Leonora, and together with my husband Jason, we are foster parents in real life. And here on my channel, From the Fosters, we do foster parenting life together and raise awareness for the foster care system. So if any of that interests you, then please consider liking this video below and subscribing to my channel for more content from me and to join my growing cyber family here on YouTube. So I want to preface this video by saying that I know that most of these things that people say to foster and adoptive parents, they're saying with good intentions. And I know that most people that ask us questions or try to offer us support and maybe say the wrong thing are coming at it from a good place. And I know that. But what I want to do is give you guys an idea of some of the things that sometimes make foster parents and adoptive parents uncomfortable, or make our children uncomfortable, or just things that haven't really been well thought out, just so that you guys have an idea and are able to kind of watch what you say in the future. And if you stick around, I'm also going to go over some things that you definitely should say to the foster and adoptive parents in your life. So the number one thing that I believe you should not say to a foster or adoptive parent is, why don't you just have your own kids? Y'all, these kids are our own, first of all. The children that come through my house are my children. I treat them like I would a biological child, and most foster and adoptive parents will tell you the exact same thing. Yes, in foster care, these children do have biological parents who technically still have legal rights to those children and who are working to get those children back. And we recognize that. Foster parents know that, and we're not trying to replace bio parents. And often we honor bio parents and try to keep kids connected to their bio parents the best that we can. However, while they are staying in our home, we treat them as if they are our biological children. We do everything for them that we would for a bio child, and we feel like they are our kids. Yes, with foster kids, we know they have another set of parents, and that's fine. But while they're in our home, we treat them like they are our kids. And adopted children legally are your kids. In the eyes of the law, those are your kids. So that's number one. Number two, with that question, is you don't know what led someone to choose foster or adoption. In my case, my husband and I struggled with infertility. We had a very painful experience with infertility. We tried for years to get pregnant unsuccessfully. And then we tried with medication. In our very first medicated round, we got pregnant. But then we lost the baby very early on in the pregnancy. And we tried several medicated rounds after that, and we're not successful. So that's painful. That's a painful memory and a painful experience for us. And we don't want to have to discuss that. But there are also people who choose foster and adoption who can have biological children or who do have biological children, but they have a call and a desire to foster or adopt. And that should never be something they should be ashamed of or made to feel less than because they chose foster or adoption over or in addition to having biological children. So definitely don't ask us why we don't just have our own children. We don't like that question. The number two thing that you should not say to foster and adoptive parents is, why didn't their parents want them, or why are they in foster care? First of all, with that question, that is incredibly personal to that child's biological parents and to that child. So often when people place a child for adoption, that's an incredibly difficult decision that they've made. And I like to argue that if a parent is placing their child for adoption because they know that somebody else could give their child a better life, that's an ultimate act of love. That is a very difficult decision for a bio parent to make, and they must love that child a whole awful lot to make that decision for their child to be able to have a better life than they can provide them. And as far as foster care goes, parents don't choose for their children to go into foster care. And you don't know what those parents' situation is. You don't know what kind of financial resources they have or don't have. You don't know what mental illnesses they're struggling with. You don't know what kind of traumatic history or background they have personally. And so I'm not going to discuss it. And most foster and adoptive parents aren't comfortable telling you that. Why a child was placed for adoption or why they're in foster care is incredibly personal to that child. And the child's not old enough to give consent to share their story. So that's not one we're going to discuss with you. The other thing with foster parents is that we actually have to sign a confidentiality agreement, and we're actually not even allowed or able to speak about their biological parent situation or the situation they were living in or the circumstances under which they were brought into foster care. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't share that with you. But often we don't want to share that because it's personal to that child and it's personal to their parents. So we really ask that you stay away from questions like that and just recognize that you don't know the circumstances under which they were placed for adoption or the circumstances under which they were taken into foster care. And so we just ask that you be respectful and kind and just understand that their story is theirs to share. And if they want to share it when they're old enough to do so, then they will do that. The number 3 thing you shouldn't say to foster and adoptive parents is you shouldn't tell us horror stories, okay? We know the horror stories and often we've lived them. I can tell you that I have lived some horror stories, but the thing is, as a foster parent, we know the reason behind the horror. We know the trauma that causes behaviors that can be seen as horrific. We know that there's so much that goes into the brain development and brain chemistry in a child who has been traumatized in some way. We know that, and we've chosen to do this. And we were told horror stories while we were going through the classes to become foster parents because they want to make sure that people go into this eyes wide open. So we know the horror stories, and people sharing horror stories with us doesn't make us feel any better or more comfortable about being a foster parent. But we know the horror stories, rest assured, and we chose to do this anyway. So just maybe try not to share those with us. The number 4 thing not to say to a foster or adoptive parent, and this is one that I get a lot, is please don't call us saints, angels, heroes on earth, amazing people. We don't feel that way. Anybody who knows me personally knows I am no saint. I cuss like a sailor. I have a very short fuse and hot temper at times. And I'm just like everybody else. My house isn't always clean. My husband and I are not rich, but we are normal people just like everybody else. And so it makes us at times feel a little uncomfortable. And while we know people are just praising us and they have good intentions, saying things like that can make us a little uncomfortable. We don't really know how to respond because we feel just like everybody else. We saw a need and we chose to try to meet that need. We want to meet the needs of children who are going through a really rough experience in their life. And I don't think that that makes us saints or angels or heroes. We're just normal people that saw a need. We have a calling. We chose to meet that need. And we're just like everybody else. The other thing about calling foster parents saints and angels and heroes is that it kind of places foster parents up on a pedestal. And if foster parents are seen as being up on a pedestal, less and less people are going to feel like they can do that. And we need more foster parents. But the reality is foster parents are just like you. If you have the financial means to support yourself, you have home with an extra room in it, you love kids, you can be a foster parent. So don't place foster parents on a pedestal. We are just like everybody else. We just have a calling in life. That doesn't make us any better than anybody else. It's just something we chose to do with our lives. And we need more people to do it. So please do not place foster parents on a pedestal. It makes us uncomfortable and it makes other people feel like they can't do this. and we need more foster parents. If you're interested in knowing requirements for becoming a foster parent, I'll link my video below. I did a video titled 7 Requirements for Becoming a Foster Parent. You can go check that one out. The 5th thing not to say to foster and adoptive parents is they're lucky to have you. You often will find a foster and adoptive parent will respond to that with, no, I'm the lucky one, or I'm lucky to have them. And I want you to think about why that is. No child wants to be placed for adoption. No child wants their bio family to say, I don't think I can properly care for this child. I don't think I can raise this child. I'm gonna let strangers have them. No child wants to be taken into foster care. And if they're in foster care, often they're in foster care for reasons of abuse or neglect. And no child wants to be abused or neglected. But furthermore, no child wants to be taken from their family, their pets, their friends, their teachers, their community, and placed with strangers in a potentially different city. Potentially the strangers are a different ethnic background, a different religion, they eat different food, they speak differently, they have different rules in the house. It's not comfortable, and it's not something any child wants to go through. So when you think of their situation, they're not lucky. I'm the lucky one because this child's in my home showing me what unconditional love, resiliency, and strength is. I'm the one learning from this child. And anytime you tell a foster or adoptive parent, oh, they're so lucky to have you, you're probably going to get a response, either no response, or you'll get a response of, I'm the lucky one. And that's why. So while we know you mean well with that one, maybe think about it before you say it. The 6th thing not to say to foster and adoptive parents, and I'll admit, nobody has said this one to me personally. However, I know that this is one that often gets said to foster fathers, and it's spoken about among males a little bit more freely and openly than it is maybe among females. So while nobody has said this to me, I know that people have said it to my husband, and that's why I wanted to address it. So the number 6 thing not to say to foster parents is, are you doing it for the money? How's the money though? Y'all, foster parents don't make money. If you're fostering correctly, you do not make money. The stipend that foster parents get every month is enough to cover the basic needs of the child in your home. Things like food, clothing, hygiene supplies, school supplies, diapers if they're a baby, and swaddle blankets, binkies, things like that, and hair care items, shampoo, toothbrush, any smaller medical expenses that aren't paid for by their health insurance, which foster children have Medicaid. And there are things at times that aren't covered. While Medicaid covers quite a bit, they don't cover everything. So there are things medically that happen that sometimes you have to pay for out of the stipend. If the child's older, it can help cover things like summer camps or going to a movie theater or a trampoline park, like normal things that kids want to do. And if you're foster parenting right, which is treating that child like they are your own biological child and doing all the things for them that you would for a biological child, you're not going to make money off of foster parenting. And most foster parents will agree that they actually spend more money on that child every month than the stipend covers. And so yes, we are losing money on that child, but that's okay because we chose to do this and we want to treat that child as if he is our own while he is in our care. But I can promise you, and most foster parents will promise you, we spend more money every month on that child than the stipend covers. The number 7 thing you shouldn't say to a foster or adoptive parent, and this is kind of a bonus one because there's several things sort of wrapped up in one. They're all sort of related to each other, so I just decided to make them one. But they are they all yours? Do they all have the same dad? You do know where they come from, right? And this is particularly for families who foster and adopt a lot of children and have a very large family, whether it's all foster and adoptive children or a mix of foster and adopted children with bio children. But usually the very large families are the ones that get those kinds of questions. Currently, my husband and I only have one foster child in our care at this time, so we don't get questions like that. but I know they're very common to families that have like 4 or more children. And there's a couple things wrong with those questions. Whether those children are adopted, foster, bio, what if they're just your kids' friends, whoever they are, those questions are nosy, they're nobody's business, and they're just flat rude. And yes, foster and adoptive parents and even bio parents of big families know where children come from, but whether or not they have the same dad or if they're all yours isn't anybody's business. So most foster and adoptive parents who have large families and get questions like this tend to become very creative with their answers. They'll answer it sounding serious, but with a joke. The Crazy Middles family, if you look up Crazy Middles on YouTube, the wife and mother of that family, I know that she has some creative responses because they have a bunch of kids that they've adopted through the foster care system. I know that she has some creative answers. And if you have a large family, you tend to come up with creative answers, but it's just rude. Don't ask people that. And honestly, if they're adopting and fostering that many children, let them do it. Those children need a home. If they're financially able, they have the space in their house, they're emotionally able, why would you ever make them feel bad about giving a child a home that needs one? So let's just steer clear of those questions altogether. The number 8 thing you should never say to a foster parent, and we get this all the time. And again, I want to preface this one by saying that I know the people who have said this to me meant well, but I'm going to explain why we don't like it. The number 8 thing you should not say to a foster parent is, I could never do what you're doing. I'd get too attached. Y'all, there's so many things wrong with that. And I'm going to start with number 1. In saying that you couldn't do what we do, you'd get too attached. Even if you don't mean to imply it, in our minds, it can sound like you're implying that we are unfeeling robots. We have no feeling. We're able to not attach to these children. And that can be taken a little insulting. Like, do you really think I'm an unfeeling robot? Obviously, the people who have met me know that I'm not. I have a lot of emotions and I wear them on my sleeve. And yeah, I'm going to get attached to these children. I love children. How can you not? So that's the first thing that's wrong with this. The second thing that's really wrong with this is if you're saying I couldn't do it, I'd get too attached, then you really don't know what the foster care system is. The children coming into the foster care system who have been abused, neglected, abandoned, need attachment more than anything. So if you think that you'd get too attached, you might be the perfect foster parent. And yes, that means it hurts really bad when they leave. But these children need someone to hurt really bad for them. They need someone to love them unconditionally. So yes, I get attached. I'm attached to my foster child. And if and when he goes home, it's going to hurt. But guess what? I am a stable, healthy adult. I have been through heartbreak before, and I know how to get through it. And it's going to hurt, and I'm going to cry, and it's going to be emotional, and I'm going to need to take time. But he needs somebody to feel that for him. He needs to see what a healthy, stable, loving home looks like. And all foster children do. So attachment's the goal. We're trying to get these children attached in a healthy way. That's the goal. So if you think you'd get too attached, you might just be the perfect foster parent. So before you say something like that one to us again, think about it, please, because again, attachment is the goal. And I get attached. All foster parents get attached to these children, but that's what these children need the most. And most foster parents will agree that they are willing to let their own heart break 1,000,000 times over just so those children can feel unconditional love. Think about that. I'm willing to let my heart break so that he can feel love, so that any future children, past children in our home can feel my love and can see somebody fighting for them, somebody loving them unconditionally, so they can see what a stable, happy, healthy home looks like. That is what these children need. And if that's what you think is going to happen, and you think that you're going to fall into being attached to a child, maybe you should consider looking into becoming a foster parent, because that is the person that they need. So now that I've gone over 8 things that you definitely shouldn't say to foster and adoptive parents, let's talk about a couple things that you should be saying to the adoptive and foster parents in your life. The first one is, how can I help, or what can I do to help? We need help and support like you wouldn't believe. And just somebody offering us that, even if they don't take you up on it, is a weight off of our shoulders. So definitely ask how you can help, or ask, what food can I bring, or when can I bring food by? Because even just you offering to bring us food or bringing us food helps so much. Foster parents are already so stressed out. Many of us work full-time jobs. Being a foster parent is a full-time job, and we have homes to maintain and bills to pay and court dates and therapies and all kinds of other stuff. And sometimes we don't really have time to cook a good meal or even run out and get takeout from our favorite restaurant. So just offering to bring food to a foster family every now and then is a massive help, and they will appreciate it. Another thing you definitely should say to foster parents is, let's get a drink together. Or if you don't drink alcohol cocktails, then what about, let's grab some coffee. When my friends offer to go have a drink with me, it is like Christmas morning for me. Foster parents rarely get out. Rarely. And so if you can sneak away, if your spouse is willing to watch the child, or if you're a single parent, you can get a babysitter just so you can go have a little bit of time to have a drink with a friend, whether it be a cocktail at happy hour or after the children go to bed, or coffee mid-morning or on the weekend. That is such an escape and a release for us. And you have no idea how much that time with you means to us. The other thing you definitely should tell the foster and adoptive parents in your life is, I'm proud of you. That's it. Sometimes that's all we want to hear. I know we went over that we don't want to hear you call us angels or heroes or amazing people, but just tell us you're proud of us, because that means a lot. We're doing really hard work, and to hear that somebody's proud of us for that means so much more than you know. I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. I get very emotional about this. The last thing you definitely should tell a foster or adoptive parent in your life is, I'm here if you ever need me. Again, they may not take you up on that, but to have somebody that you know is a safe person you can go vent to means so much. We are under so much stress being parents of foster and adoptive children, and to have somebody to be able to go talk to about that. Yeah, they're probably going to keep their confidentiality. We're under a confidentiality agreement. They may not tell you all the things about the case, all the things about the child's bio parents, all the things they're having to go through. But just to be able to vent about normal everyday life to a friend means so much. If you're interested in learning more about the foster care system or becoming a foster parent, consider looking up the foster care system in your area by Googling Department of Social Services or foster care in your particular county, and see what comes up, what the requirements are. Read testimonials from parents in your area. And if you're considering becoming a foster parent or want to just learn more about the foster care system, please consider subscribing to my channel, because we do foster parent life together and raise awareness for the foster care system. Until next time, friends, go out and shine your light into the world.